Hare Krishna. Okay, sorry about that. So, continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, verse number 4. And I'll just read the translation and purport. Okay. Can everyone hear? If someone could give me some indication.
Okay. I can hear.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, here we go. In this way, increasingly overwhelmed by illusion, King Pranjana, although advanced in consciousness, remained always lying down with his head on the pillow of his wife's arms. In this way, he considered woman to be his ultimate life and soul. Becoming thus overwhelmed by the mode of ignorance, he could not understand the meaning of self-realization, of his self, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Human life is meant for self-realization. First of all, one has to realize his own self, which is described in this verse as Nijam. Then he has to understand or realize the Supersoul, or Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, when one becomes too much materially attached, he takes a woman to be everything. This is the basic principle of material attachment. In such a condition, one cannot realize his own self or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.2, it is therefore said, Mahat Sevam Dharam Ahur Vimuktes Tamo Dvaram Yosidam Sandhikam.
Sorry.
Okay. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.2, it is therefore said, Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimuktes Tamo Dvaram Yositam Sangi Sangam. If one associates with Mahatmas or devotees, his path of liberation is opened. But if one becomes too much attached to women or to persons who are also attached to women, that is, attached to women directly or indirectly, he opens the Tamodwaram, the door to the darkest region of hellish life. King Pranjana was a great soul, highly intellectual and possessed of advanced consciousness. But due to his being too much addicted to women, his whole consciousness was covered. In the modern age, the consciousness of people is too much covered by wine, women, and flesh. Consequently, people are completely unable to make any progress in self-realization. The first step of self-realization is to know oneself as spirit soul apart from the body. In the second stage of self-realization, one comes to know that every soul, every individual living entity, is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15.7. Mamevam sujiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, manasastan indriyani, prakritishtani karshiti. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses which include the mind. All living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, in this present civilization, both men and women are allowed to be attracted to one another from the very beginning of life. And because of this, they are completely unable to come to the platform of self-realization. They do not know that without self-realization, they suffer the greatest loss in the human form of life. Thinking of a woman always within one's heart is tantamount to lying down with a woman on a valuable bedstead. The heart is the bedstead, and it is the most valuable bedstead. When a man thinks of woman and money, he lies down and rests on the arms of his beloved woman or wife. In this way, he overindulges in sex life and thus becomes unfit for self-realization. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Dasya Jnana Salake Chakshun Vetam Yena Tasma Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupatakam Maya Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Shah. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavandhu Jagat Pate Kopesha Gopika Kante Radha Kanta Namosite Tapta Kanchana Govinki Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Haripre Vanchaka Patirubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavane Vyo Vaishnavya Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so thank you everyone, sorry for the late start. I'm here in the boardroom with my friend John.
Hi guys.
Here,
I'm on the other side.
oh, it's gonna be. Okay, and yeah, we have a very interesting topic we're dealing with here. Gotta try. Yeah, we have a very interesting topic we're dealing with here, and it's interesting because Prabhupada gave so much social commentary, whereas I've heard the other acharyas don't speak so much on these kind of social matters, but Prabhupada, very much speaks on them a lot, and quotes Chanika Pandit a lot, and so it's very interesting. Okay, so I don't know. I'm thinking it would be nice to kind of discuss some of these things, because obviously from reading these verses in this section, it's very it's like, it gives a very ideal standard of life, and as we were discussing yesterday, someone might think, okay, this is it, let's just do this, like for example, hearing about how the woman should just be completely submissive to the husband, and her duty is actually just to serve the husband, and the husband is the one who is kind of doing the direct devotional process, and then so anyways, we hear things like this, and it's kind of like I don't know, it just seems very, very foreign to us, and if we take kind of these statements and try to just right off the bat implement them, then it could cause serious problems. So there's one devotee, he actually had a seminar. He made a seminar called "How to Ruin Your Life with Varnashram Dharma." And you know about Varnashram Dharma, yeah. So how to ruin your life with Varnashram Dharma. And many devotees, they were very very perturbed at this, because they're thinking, oh, he's going against Prabhupada, and but I listened to some of it, and it was very interesting, because what he did, he just talked about how, okay, say we were to just start implementing these principles, and you could see that it'd be very tough, because we're already going in, civilization is already moving in such a direction. Things are already set up in such a way, whereas now to implement these things, it's not practical. It'd be like if today on the farm we were to say, okay, so now we're gonna not use any oil and try to keep the same operation going. So that would mean, first of all, to feed the cows with however many bales of hay they get every morning. I think they use about 7 bales of hay. So that means me and John and probably like 3 other guys would have to carry each bale of hay to each like section where the cows are. And so this in itself would take like half the day, Or what we'd probably do is we'd have to split up all the bales, put them into a barrel, take the barrel, the wheelbarrow, dump it out, come back. That would take half the day right there. Just that one task. What to speak of milking by hand. Anyways, so it'd be, it wouldn't be very practical. So similarly, some of these things that we hear, it's the ideal standard, it's the gold standard, but we have to be very sober in our application of them. Okay, so with that said, so we can see in this verse in purport how the stress is on how the man, pretty much the man, and even though Prabhupada's saying the man here, it can also, we can say also the woman becoming attached to the man. So man shouldn't become attached to, men shouldn't associate with men or those who are attached to women and vice versa. And so the basic idea is don't become attached to the opposite sex, because this is pretty much the door to hellish life, as it's saying here. And I remember actually my friend, this devotee I joined with, he got his first devotional tattoo. It was a warning sign because he heard quoted in a class that the quote is something like, conceding to a life of sex, one voluntarily signs up for suffering. So conceding to a life of sex, one voluntarily takes on a life of suffering. So he had this warning sign on his forearm, and unfortunately, as many of us do, we kind of ignore warning signs. So anyways, I don't know, maybe he got the tattoo covered up or something. So it's it's this very powerful force, this whole sex desire thing, and we can see the Varnashram Dharma system. 3 of the 4 ashrams are pretty much supposed to be aloof from this. So only in one ashram are you allowed to kind of engage in this activity, and even that should be done under very careful arrangements. And I've been listening. I have to admit, I have to come out of the closet here. I've been listening recently to some lectures on the Manu Samhita. You know Manu Samhita? So Manu Samhita is like, it's pretty much like these very these rules and regulations for humans, and anyways, it's very interesting because some of the things that it talks about there. It talks about the duties of brahmachari, grihastha, the different ashrams, and there's all these principles for the grihastha. And pretty much what these principles do is they're kind of like they're ways so you can handle this very powerful force of sex. In a kind of controlled way, because the whole thing is, okay, even if you're a grihastha, still you can only engage in sex life in a very limited way. It's not just, okay, you get married and, the gates are open, you can just have at it. No, still, as Krishna says, Dharma vuredu bhuteshu kamosmi bharatashava. He's saying, I'm sex life, which is according to religious principles. So that means, we're not only supposed to have sex life for having Krishna conscious children, and even there's so many regulations for that. So so it's hard enough to say celibate when you're not having to kind of like interface with the opposite sex. What to speak of if you live with your wife? I mean, how are you supposed to control yourself? So it's interesting. The Manu Samhita actually gives all these different injunctions, and husband and wife are not supposed to sleep in the same bed. Husband's not supposed to see the wife changing, because these things will kind of evoke one's lusty desires. This is a very interesting one. The husband is not supposed to see the wife putting on makeup, pretty much, in contemporary terms. Because, and one might think, well, what's the big deal about that? But the thing is when a wife, when a woman is engaged in that activity, putting on makeup, she's putting out a certain energy, because she's very focused on she's focused on looking good, and somehow or other that gives off a very powerful energy. So if a man sees that, he becomes attracted. So the husband's also not supposed to see that. Like in Vedic culture, that the men generally. Anyway, so there's all these. It's very interesting. There's all these rules and regulations like that, and it's all to kind of keep a peaceful home. Keep the man and wife kind of free from this propensity to engage in that activity. One other thing I wanted to say is, so there's a nice pastime, because the whole reason that one also gets married is because it's better to kind of engage in sex life in an authorized way, and in a way that's not sinful, than to just like be like a loose cannon, and even I think we read in some of these recent purports, that a man who engages, a single man who can't control himself, he becomes a threat to himself and society. Because let's face it, if someone we know like sex offenders, child molesters, these are big problems. So that's why they say it's better that the man and woman, if the man can't control his sex desire, get married and do it in an authorized way, and by following the rules and regulations, then one will become purified. So that's why it's very important that the man is supposed to be trained, and the woman is also supposed to be trained, because it's like so say that the man starts feeling lusty, and it's obviously not an appropriate time, then the woman can be like, no, we're not going to do this now. And same thing, if the woman becomes lusty and the man, so in that way you can see how kind of that peer pressure helps. It's like, if two friends are out, and one friend wants to do something really stupid, and the other friend's like, no dude, this is not a good idea. So that's the same principle. And yeah, we see this in the story of how, because if you don't do this, then guess what? You might give birth to Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. So this is actually what happened. Is as we know, Kasyapa, he's doing his meditation, and then his wife Diti was like, I'm itching. Let's go. And let's do this. And Kasyapa's like, no, it's not a good time. So anyways, I just want to read through a little of this. This is the chapter entitled Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. So you can see already from the chapter title, it's not looking good because the evening is generally an inauspicious time. So I just want, from this we can kind of, the point I want to bring out is kind of how the two are able to protect each other. So we know, Diti is being afflicted by the contamination of lust. So Prabhupada says how in the purport how lust is actually to be considered a contamination. So then now she's like, she's saying sweet words to her husband. Oh, afflicted one, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear. Oh wait, no, that's Kasyapa talking. Oh, here. Oh no, okay. So this is Diti talking, yeah. She's saying, I'm the source of the three types of liberation. Who is this talking? Oh, here, Diti. That's me. Okay, no, sorry. Okay. So Diti's saying like, sir, oh lotus-eyed one, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone is in distress, approaches a great person, his pleas never go in vain. So she's pretty much like, she's wooing him in a very cultured way. And then Prabhupada makes the point, so Diti's coming with this mood, that's when the husband should be like, put his foot down and say, no, we're not going to do this. Just chill out. But Prabhupada makes the point that because Kasyapa was not very strong, and because he had this desire, then now he just kind of starts talking like, well, you'll see, it's not very it's not very like affirmative and authoritative. So he's saying I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear to you, for who but you is the source of the three perfections of life. As one can cross over the ocean with seagoing vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. So you can see how, you can see, this is saying that you can see the asset that the spouse is for one. Pretty much, the wife, the husband, it's going to save you from sinful activities. Okay, so he goes on. O respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of a man's body because of her sharing in all auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibilities to his wife. That talks about how the wife, the husband has so many duties to perform, pancha yagya, these different sacrifices he's supposed to perform, and the woman helps in that. Then this is an interesting one. As a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers, by taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses which are uncontrollable in the other social orders. Let me read that again for my own sake. As a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers, By taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses, which are unconquerable in the other social orders. So yeah, the senses are like, always attacking us, and you can imagine just the wife or husband is there with the machine gun just shooting off the unlawful desires. And so this, and I think here the point is made. So the householder life is on the safe side. Okay. Sex demand is inevitable for everyone, but one who has a fixed wife is saved from the onslaught of sense enemies. A man who possesses a good wife does not create disturbance in society by corrupting virgin girls. Without a fixed wife, a man becomes a debauchee of the first order and is a nuisance in society, unless he is trained in brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. Excuse me. And just because it's an interesting point to note, Prabhupada's saying, unless there's rigid and systematic training of the brahmachari by the expert spiritual master, unless the student is obedient, it is sure that the so-called brahmachari will fall prey to the attack of sex. So I was making this point the other day that we need a stronger brahmachari ashram, brahmachari training in the movement, because it seems hard for people to just have a little brahmachari training, which how good is that training even nowadays? And then now you have this, you go into family life, you have this big responsibility. You're supposed to be able to control yourself. I don't know. It seems like a losing battle. Okay. So anyway, so we can see Kasyapa here. He says these things. He's like, okay. I'm supposed to please you, this and that. Like I said, he's not kind of putting his foot down and being like, no, we're not going to do this. And then he says, okay, but so we'll do, I'll please you. And as Prabhupada says, because he also wanted to have sex life. So he says, I'll please you, but can we at least wait a little? Because this is a very inauspicious time. It's the evening, as we know, there are certain parts of the day, mainly the evening, the ghosts are actually traveling above, and Shiva and all his, hobgoblins and stuff are there, and so that's why it's also said, it's best not to nap in the evening time, and especially the junction between day and night, because when it's easier to become possessed by ghosts, things like that. So that's why. So Kasyapa's like, okay, let's just at least wait, because this is a very inauspicious time. But she was insistent, and then he kind of just gave in, and next thing you know, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha are born, and so anyways, I just kind of trying to put more light on this whole section that we're going to be going through, and the whole thing is to not become attached to the wife. And there's this verse that says in the Bhagavatam how the man, if the man is attached to the wife, then he'll take a birth. He'll have to ultimately he won't be liberated. He'll have to take birth as that object that he's been meditating on. He'll have to take birth as a woman in the material world, and we don't want to take birth in the material world again. So, okay, I'll stop there. If anyone has any questions or comments, yeah, they can go ahead and do so now. Sorry if I kind of just rushed through, but I thought that was a very nice kind of story in this regard, because it shows how, yeah, it just pretty much just shows how valuable this the Grihastha ashram is in protecting one from sinful life and going to hell. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions or comments, they can do so now. Yeah, and as Prabhupada was saying, that's why it's so important. The brahmachari becomes trained, because in the brahmachari ashram, one is supposed to develop knowledge and detachment, and just imagine if thank you, Devi Priti. Yeah, just imagine if Kasyapa had that detachment, then he would have been able to be like, no, we're not going to do this. Of course, he had the knowledge. That was a good thing. He at least, well, for whatever it's worth, at least he knew it was a bad thing. But he obviously didn't have the detachment to kind of prevent that activity from happening. Okay. Jagannath Pandit Prabhu.
Thank you for the class. A lot of information covered.
I don't know if this is a long pause or if the internet's cutting out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put my notebook on the thing and paused on accident.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned so many technical points, things that are ideal for brahmachari ashram, grihastha ashram, and so on. In the purport, Prabhupada mentions how, let's see, he says that unfortunately in the present civilization, both men and women are allowed to be attracted to one another from the very beginning of life. And because of this, they are completely unable to come to the platform of self-realization. So if we think about what you were mentioning, you said there's a need for a stronger brahmachari training in the movement, and how there isn't much training outside of brahmachari ashram for brahmachari training in the world, obviously. So there's just a minute number of people who get any type of brahmachari training and on this planet. So then the 99.9% of the people on the planet are in this category of unable to come to the platform of self-realization based on the training that they've had just growing up in the society, especially today. I mean, there's so many weapons of mass distraction, as Radhanath Swami says. So there is that need. So if you could speak to how you've been trained as a brahmachari, and also how this can be something that can be implemented more in our movement, the institution of brahmachari.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, my personal experience, I guess. Yeah, it's been very kind of unorthodox. Um, but I think by getting the association of this very advanced brahmachari, very very kind of stalwart brahmachari, it was very powerful. Of course, we had 3 vans in our party, so we didn't always get to travel with him. But when we did, it was very it was similar to like if one was with a guru, and because he would give instructions on so many different things, like not only exactly direct spiritual topics, but also just kind of common courtesy and things that maybe some of us didn't learn while growing up. So I mean, I think that ideal though. There's the Gurukul in Mayapur, and the thing is, they're kind of they're taught about Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, but they're also taught all these things like from Manu Samhita, like I was quoting. So they're actually more prepared to go into the Grihastha ashram. Because I've heard that's one criticism of like our current brahmachari ashrams in most temples is you don't really learn how to deal with a woman. Actually, main thing we just learn is not to deal with women, so you can stay brahmachari. But then it's like, okay, now if you go to the Grihastha ashram, then what do you do? And I mean, how are we expected to get that training, because we're probably just being trained by a brahmachari who's been there 5 years longer than us. So ideally all these things are given. The brahmachari should be trained in the shastra, and to common, just like in general, how to like be a good outstanding member of society, and and also the intricacies of dealing with a woman, and then by engaging in devotional service and getting that taste that develops that level of detachment. So that's ideal. Like Maharaj's Gurukul program in Mayapur. That's a nice program, very very holistic, complete. But now we don't so much get that. But I think now what the strength of the brahmachari ashram is that ability to study. Getting to study Prabhupada's books. So at least having somewhat of idea what to do, what to not to do, and getting that higher taste, going out and preaching, and being able and seeing that, okay, like I can live without a woman in my life, like it's actually possible, and then and I've heard, because once one experiences that, then one will be able to, if needed, to give up the Grihastha ashram, because he's already knows about how to he had experience with the simple life of brahmachari, so he can more easily go back to that. And just in general, all the other benefits of brahmacharya are there, the health benefits, the benefits to our ISKCON society, just having those kind of full-time devotees who can preach and use their youthful energies in the service of Prabhupada's mission. Anyways, those are just some thoughts on that. But like I said, it'd be nice if we had the whole picture. If people really knew like had training how to go and be a grihastha. Okay, so I think we'll have to end there so we can go and catch the rest of the program. Thank you very much, devotees. Hare Krishna. This is your morning Bhagavatam class with Bhakta John and Dasya Prem Das. Bhakta John, thank you for being the co-host.
Hare Krishna. Not much of a host. Not much of a co-host.
Okay. Alright. Ganta Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Prem.
Thank you for your class and your answers to the question. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Prabhu. Thank you for asking. Hare Krishna.